What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Thursday night's Airbrush Down and Dirty Tricks. We are back. We are going to finally finish this mummy up. We were almost going to finish it Monday, but we went off on a bunch of different tangents, which is cool because we got a lot of stuff done. And all we have left is the final details, some of the dark lines, some shading, and we might do some extra color work to it while we have some time. And we'll just go from there. Let's see what we got here. We got Brian Moore, Amos Mendez, Todd Gringsby, Ryan Shea. What else we got here? Did I miss anyone? Let's see. I think I got everyone. Darren Plank. What's going on? All right, well, we got here. We were recording. We're sound. To get with sound, we got good picture. I think we're doing good. No one's complaining yet, so I think we're good. All right, let's talk about where we left off. Let me move this so I can be off to the side here. And we're going to bring up our reference image. So this is what we started with here. So that was, the sketch and then the vector that we're working with. And that vector I pinned to the top. That is on mckfineart.com if anyone's interested in downloading, if you have. I did check it. It's all up to date now. Brian Moore, you are welcome. You are welcome. Sorry for the confusion on the download file as well. That is all up to date now. I think we're good. Yeah, let's talk about what happened last week. We'll talk about the vector downloads, how we're talking about it. For those you already have, you've already figured it out. If you guys have a Cricut, there's a video on this channel on how to open files for Cricut. There's a couple of things Cricut does to the files that make it look like there's nothing there when it's really there because it makes a big black box around everything. So you just get a big black square when you open it up. There's a video on that. If you look up at the channel, how to open a file in Cricut, it's there. And then there was some confusion last week on the Cameo silhouette. So for those of you who have a Cameo silhouette, and for those who don't know, a Cricut and a Cameo are both desktop craft cutters. They are in the way they're kind of an entry level to like what a commercial plotter would be. A commercial plotter, like I have that's behind me here, there, that thing, that's a 24 inch. They go up to 54, 60 inch. Those are kind of open source, meaning they open everything that's vector software, depending on what program we use. So you can use almost anything, import it, open it. Craft cutters tend to be a little bit more restrictive because they kind of want to keep you in their ecosystem. So the way it works is all vectors are really EPS files. And then the common one is SVG, DXF, AI. There's PDF versions of vectors. There's, I forget the other ones. Sometimes TIFFs can actually be vectors. And it's not DXF, it's D something else. Anyway, I can't remember. So Cricut, you can, if you download my file set from mckfineart.com or any file set, that file set includes every type of file you could pretty much need. I haven't run into one that requires anything other than the ones I've set up, which is why I was surprised last week that some people were having issues. If you have a Cricut, you have to import into your library, you have to import the SVG file. Cricut likes SVGs, unless it's made in the Cricut software or the Cricutverse, it wants to import. And open doesn't usually work. You have to import the SVG file, and then there's a video on how to convert it because it puts a big. If you have a box, it just fills in with color because it doesn't have transparency, which is stupid. So that's Cricut. If you have a Cameo silhouette, they don't import SVGs. They don't like EPSs. They don't do anything. And there was some confusion last week that people said, "Oh, the only way to open those is to you already bought a Cameo, you already have the software, but you can only use their files, and if you want to use anything else, you have to upgrade and pay 40, 50, 70, whatever it is, to upgrade the software." And I didn't find that was right. And it's not. So all you need to do, and I did a little video, I'm going to put it on here on the channel as well. I'm just going to edit it, but it's on my Facebook page. All you have to do is you go, once you're open in your design space, you go up to File, Library, Add to Library. And then when you add to library and you open the file set, you import the DXF. The DXF file is what Cameo likes. So that's worked out. That's cleared up. We got that cleared out last week, and I made a video. So if you like this file or any of the files, go for it. Tons of files online. And if you are a member of the channel, like all these fine folks, you get 25% off those downloads. So this is a $20 download. If you're a member, it's $15. If you're a member, it costs $3 a month to support the channel, help the channel, and you get 25. So you spend $3, you get 5 off. So you basically, you save $2. And you support the channel for a month and hopefully longer than that. So that helps on all the file downloads. There's tons of them. There's also some free downloads for members. There's the free Gothic church. There's, I think the Statue of Liberty one is still free. And there was the, what was it? Was it the bird? The sparrow was free. So that's an option. That's all for becoming a member, which you can join there. Or if you're on your phone or you're online, you just where you normally hit subscribe, there's a little join button there. We got some new members last week. Tater Salad came in, Remember Carson, and this week Jonathan Parsons came in. So thank you for joining up. Appreciate it. No, Jonathan's here. Welcome. Take advantage of those discounts, guys, and we'll have some more discounts coming up as we get closer to Black Friday and stuff like that too. So. Not this, but those will happen next month. So I usually try to put some stuff together for that. And I'm going to do I know next month with holidays coming, I got a bunch of prints that I'm going to do a 50% blowout probably next month. So keep an eye out for that as well. So thank you guys for signing up. Social medias, just get all the business out of the way now. There's all social media links. If you guys want to find me on anything, that's there. Message me there, things like that. And yes, definitely like, subscribe, share, all free. Exactly. And we got some more stuff coming up. We got to do members-only content. Not a lot of it. We got to do some. And we're going to have some other stuff happen down the road. What else we got going on here? Obviously, all the brands we like to use and places we like to get them from. This is pretty much everything we use here in the channel. We're not exclusive. We're not paid by these companies, but some of these companies do help us out with some material, stuff like that. Parts and stuff. So I want an Airbrush. I've been using them for, on and off, but I've been using them consistently for the past 12 years, but I've used them since the 90s. Createx colors, everything we're using here tonight. And then you can get those all at Maple. You can get them, this is all done in FBS. I've done all that. You need transfer tape to put the mask on a canvas. Well, you need transfer tape to transfer your vinyl from whatever you are. If you cut vinyl, you have to get it off the backer onto the canvas or whatever you're painting. So yeah, you need transfer tape. Just FYI, if it's a dry canvas or textured canvas, most vinyl masking does not stick well to that at all. It's very hard. You can get it on there. If you gessoed it and it's a little smoother, you sometimes get it on. But it is typically hard to get on canvas or canvas board. The only material out there that works really good on canvas is the FBS Gold, which is the paper type, the rice paper type paint mask. That can go on texture surfaces like stucco walls and metal grates and even like pavement and tar and rough concrete and canvas. Because the paper, believe it or not, the paper conforms to that texture better. And like you said, the vinyl, you can, when you're on canvas, can creep under. The nice thing about the gold, as long as you don't oversaturate it, it really gets onto the texture. So FBS Gold is probably your best friend for that. So yeah, that would be. I don't have the thing for that here. That's it. Let's go back. That's all the business side of it. Let's get going. Let's show you what we got here. This is where we left off last week. The gesso. Yeah, Amos is right. The gesso helps. If you want to really get it on there well, gesso it, let it dry. What I've done in the past, I learned this from a lot of fine artists, is sand that with 600, that gesso, and then do it, and then gesso it one more time, and your canvas will be smooth, and you won't have all that texture. That canvas texture is tough to work with. You know, the canvas texture is great if you're a painter because it grabs the brush, but for an airbrush artist, it's kind of finicky. You can work with it, but yeah. All right, so let's show you what we got. This is where we got left off. Let's talk about the paint. Remixed up my paint here. So we have our colors. We have our opaque lime, light orange. I have a black and green moss mix. I have an opaque, I think this is Hansi yellow. Opaque white. We have a candy green in here. And then I have a purple, because I'm going to do a purple pinstripe, and Gary made a good point. Gary's the final bidder on this. I've locked the bid out. So this is Gary's painting. We might put some purple side lighting on, some fantasy lighting, depending on what we have time for. So I'll talk about how to do that. Yeah, if you do 3 coats, let it sit for a day. So I was talking to Jonathan Pantaleone, when he does canvas, he likes to get the canvas like almost super smooth. So you do the gesso, let it sit for a couple days, then sand that back and gesso one more time, and then let it sit for a day. So I'm using Yopo paper. I'm afraid that vinyl, I don't know what that paper is, so you'd have to test it. I don't know what Yopo. I've never heard of it. Some of the papers, like Drew Blair's paper works great. But again, you got to be careful masking over paintwork and then pulling again. Sometimes the papers don't really hold the paint that solid unless it saturates in. So yeah, I'm not sure. All right. Before we get going, anyone got any major questions on stuff? I think we covered the vector stuff. If you look in the description or pinned, that download link is there, so please download some. It's a fun project to do. And the project does come with the hieroglyphs separate as well. All right, so I'm using my HPC Plus, and we got this black-green mix. Yeah, then it's probably fine. I just don't have experience with it, so you're probably fine with it. I know it's not going to tear the paper up from using it. You just got to make sure it doesn't pull artwork if you put stuff over it. How do you plan on painting on a piece? How do you plan your painting on a piece like this? What do you mean? Like, how do I plan as far as, if you've been watching, you notice like how I go from pencil sketch, and then I determine if I'm doing a light color or dark color surface, and that kind of determines what order of operations I'm going to go in. You know, if I'm going background to foreground, foreground to background, if I have to counter mask or remask. Sometimes it happens on the fly. You know, sometimes you just go into it and start. Like, so we talked about last week how if I did total freehand, you would start out, your painting starts out kind of soft, and then you tighten it as you go. When you go with a mask like this, you end up with a very tight underpainting that look kind of like this, all crisp. And then you actually soften it with your detail, and then you can crisp it back up at the end, like I'm doing now. So you see this is very crisp, and now I come in here, and I put this line, and I shade it out. Now it's a much softer edge, and I can do a little drop shadow here, keeping that light sourcing in mind, that kind of top-down light source. So what I'm doing now is kind of like how the Hellboy painting started last time. Basically, the Hellboy started loose, if you remember. I started loose and then got to the point where I was doing tighter lines. And if I want to crisp something up that I feel is getting too loose, That's when you take like a shield like this, and I can come in. Like, see how this got a little loose here? Let me see if I can zoom in on that here. See how that's a little loose, and I kind of missed it there. Now I can come in like this, and I can use a loose stencil, loose shield, and I can crisp that up. I can come and use this side of it, and again, crisp that up. So it's a mix. Well, your artwork has to... You're still in the learning stages. Your artwork isn't popping because you're kind of working in one tone, meaning you're not pushing and pulling enough and setting everything up. You know, where I work in the mid-tones and then I get these darker down here. Like if you go back to last week, see how this all looks flat? This all looks monotone, okay? And if I go back in, I'm not careful, I can make it look monotone but just all dark. So what you can do, like, let's do this. Just like how we did this. Let's get this chin. I want to get this chin separated from the lower body here. So this is kind of his shoulder and trap muscle. And here's his chin, and this is kind of where his rib cage and chest is, and that's kind of his arm coming down. Okay, but see how this all looks like one plane right now? It's just all even tone. That's why there's no pop. To get pop, you need contrast. You have to understand contrast. So let's take our paper here. And now I'm going to take this, and let's cut this blade. It's a little wonky. Oh, yes, a good one. This one's good. So watch. Now I'm going to take this. Yeah, there's a lot of subtlety, guys. There's a lot of soft tricks you got to do, and you know, not really rush it. You keep an eye on like dark and lights and push and pull. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of control involved, and it just takes time. None of you guys are gonna get it right off the bat. It's gonna take a bit. Most of you guys probably don't know him. Some of you guys know he's an amazing pinstriper called Gooch. And he put a post the other day, and it was really true. Because you guys are exposed to learn, you know, this all on the internet, and everything looks so quick, kind of easy to do. When you go to do it, everything seems kind of more difficult. And it just doesn't work, and it's frustrating. Because it should just work. You can see us do it, you know. But you know, there's just a lot of time in there that you gotta put your time in the fires. And just let it come. The only thing I could equate it to, and I've equated a bunch of times, it's playing an instrument. You can learn the notes, and you can learn where it all goes, and you can learn how to do it. But until you do it a lot, until it becomes second nature, and you start to learn how to make it flow, and then how to learn to make it your own, that's where stuff really starts to come together. So, and a lot of you guys just start with really difficult stuff. I know I've been teaching for years, and you know, every time I did the basic classes, we wouldn't get a lot of sign-ups, or people would come in, it's okay. As soon as we did the Scholar Real Fire class, it fills up. Because everyone wants to do the fun stuff. And I was the same way, and I learned the hard way. I've talked about this before. You know, my wife, Crystal, really helped me with this. I had to get the basics down. I didn't go to art school. I, you know, always drew and painted, and I, you know, was the art kid in school, in high school, and that was the most I had. And I hated doing still lifes. I hated doing all the boring shading and all that stuff. And, you know, my artwork just kind of was cool, but it was, again, it was flat. And I started learning, my wife basically got me to, start drawing still lifes and then start learning real shading and real lighting. And I've said this, I've spoken at a few schools in my old high school. I don't know how many of you did art in high school, but you had to do the still life, there'd be the friggin' apple on the table. And I don't want to draw an apple, I want to draw cool stuff. Learn to draw the effing apple. You learn how to draw the apple and shade an apple and shade a ball. If you can't airbrush a floating ball shaded really well so it looks like it's rounded and floating off the surface with shading, we're just using white paper and black. If you don't have that, maybe black and white and kind of two-tone it. If you don't have that skill set down to be able to just do that, make the ball look rounded and floating, put the shadows in the right place, the lighting in the right place, and then the shadow on the surface in the right place. If you don't have that yet, because you don't want to do the boring, I just want to do a ball, I want to do a skull, your skulls will never look good. They'll look okay, they'll look cool, you'll probably figure out how to do line work and stuff, but you'll always be missing that pop because you don't have the shading down. Learn to draw the apple. Learn to shade the floating sphere. Learn the cylinder. Master it at the basic level so it becomes second nature. Then when you do this stuff, now I know where the shading is. So watch. This all didn't pop, right? Just like when I did this. It didn't pop. So now watch. Yeah, you hated the apple and you skipped it. And that's why you're having trouble. And I'm not saying that to be mean, I'm saying that to be honest because it's real and I had to learn the hard way as well. So watch, just here, and now just here, just by shading under this. Okay, see, whoops. Damn it. Sorry. I had you blocked off. So what I did, you couldn't see, is I'm shading here. Now I'm coming under this, and I'm shading here. Now just watch. This is how I understood how to get the apple to float off the table in the sphere. So now when I come in and I do these, so now watch. Now that head floats off this chest better than it did a few minutes ago. It's shading. Now I'm going to shade more. Actually, I'm going to thin this paint out a little bit more. A little thicker than I want it to be. And I hated the apple too. I hated the apple. I hated that. But man, once I learned how to shade a basic circle and an apple, then my skull started looking really freaking cool because I understand how to make the forehead look good and the eye sockets. I used to make eyes as holes, eye sockets and skulls as holes instead of a socket with this bone that goes in. You learn these things with practice. And you're not going to get it in 6 months. I've been teaching people a long time. I started teaching in 2002, 2003 maybe. I started teaching some basics. In all those years, I've had one student, not one, I've had more than one, but I've had just a handful out of the hundreds come in, grasp the airbrush within the first day of class and knew what they were doing. And do you know why they were able to do that? Because they were trained artists. They already understood. They already understood light, shading, secondary light, reflective light, where things. They already understood that. They understood anatomy. They understood how stuff moves. So that they already had. Then they just had to learn how to use the tool and apply it to their design. If you don't have all those basics when you're starting out with an airbrush, and you don't have fundamentals of drawing or painting or things like that. You're learning all that at the same time. So it's really tough. You need to be able to have a white surface like this, put a circle template down. I'm just using one color. Understanding here's a core shadow. I'm going to come all the way around to here, the sphere. Like this, right? See what that core shadow is? Now watch. And with the airbrush, I understand my overspray, how it hits a stencil. And there's a floating ball that's floating off the surface. Like that. And if I did want to put, like, say it's a glossy ball and it has like a reflection line, now it has a little reflection. Okay. That's simple. But that is hard to do when you don't have control or understanding. Just like the sphere. Let's see if I can find something that's straight. Let's just do, I'm going to do a drop shadow here. Okay. Just that line. Now it starts to look like a tube a little bit. It's kind of a bad example, but you know what I mean? It starts to look radiused. One of the best fundamentals I have, aside from, an egg on white paper, multiple light sources. Yeah, exactly. So what you're saying there is like an egg on a white table with like, you have a primary and a secondary light. Okay. Do that after you get this down. When you get that down, then start multiple light sourcing. Because when you do a sphere, the light's coming down like this, and this is your main light source. Okay. But if you have a table here, that light's coming down here, and it's bouncing up. Okay. It's bouncing away this way. So that's why you have basically, it's a little lighter here, and there's a core shadow, because that secondary bounce light's coming up. Okay, so when you start to understand this stuff, when you start doing this, see that thumb? And I'm doing that whole shadow. I just shadowed that, now it looks more radiused. That's basic understanding. But if you skip those fundamentals, you always struggle. And honestly, it never gets easier. Because you got to get those down. As boring as some of that stuff is, you got to get those fundamentals down. And it takes time, and the problem is, and I've had a couple private students that would come in every, I had one student, she was great. But what she would do, she would pay for an entire day lesson, and we'd spend the whole first half of the day working on airbrush drills, and how to use the trigger, and how to not to do this, and how to shade the ball, and how to do a dagger stroke, and how to do that, how to get all this stuff done. So the first 4 or 5 hours were that before she could get into painting the fun stuff. Okay. And every time I said, go home, practice these drills, practice stuff, do this a couple times a week, blah, 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 and you'll get better. 6 months, 8 months later, she'd go, hey, I want to do another lesson. I'm really frustrated with what's, I can't do what I want to do, blah, 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 blah. And I would come in, and she'd start struggling with the drills, and start struggling with brush control. I'm like, oh, if you practice, no, I did for a little bit, that it wasn't working, so I just put it down, and I picked it back up a month ago, and I'm frustrated, I can't get it. Started over. 6 months later, same thing. And it was repetitive. And I started realizing what's happening is she comes in, gets the lesson, starts getting better, but has to go home and practice, frustrates, doesn't, wants to get back into it, comes back in, and it's not working. Then she's like, every time I take a class, I'm starting at the beginning because she's not practicing. You got to get over that hump and get that muscle memory developed. Without that muscle memory developed and become second nature, you're always going to fight the control. And it takes a while, man. I always wanted to play keyboard when I was a kid because keyboards are cool in the 80s. Till you realize they weren't. I took piano lessons, and I didn't practice all week. And then Mr. J airbrushing is all, yep, shades and fades. Go inside, look at everything. Exactly. So when you do the cylindrical shading and the sphere, and I've shown this before, shown in class, you see this? You got the perfect example in front of you the whole time. It's right there. Look, there's your core shadow. There's your core highlight. There's a secondary shadow coming from the reflection above, and there's a bottom light source coming up from the secondary bounce light. It's right in front of you. Dagger strokes up, but they're not. They're easy, but you have to practice them. You have to do the daggers this way. I do them this way, and this way. You can even do them this way. Practice these damn drills. Dagger strokes and circles. You start to get second nature, and those just become second nature. Now you get the control. But if you're not doing those drills, starting out, and you think you just got to go in and just start painting and never do those drills and never get it down, you're going to fight this hobby forever. That's why, especially as t-shirt guys, that's why we can assign our names. This is just a rat tail. And you have to practice it. Dagger strokes and dots every day. That's like when you want to be a keyboard player or a guitarist or anything, you got to practice your scales. The do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. You have to get that committed to ultimate muscle memory so it becomes second nature. If you don't understand how to do... So these are hard dagger strokes, which are line work, and that's great for t-shirt artists. It's not great for fine art illustrators. But that same motion is shades and fades. These shades I'm doing here are just long, soft dagger strokes, okay? I'm coming in, I'm building, and not even seeing the lines. Notice you're not seeing the because I know how to kind of balance them. But that stroke is the same as this stroke. This stroke is just closer and faster. This is further away. Mr. J, you're 100% right. You just go outside. It's London Pens in the house. What's going on? Sean, what's happening? Thank you all for popping in. But yeah, so, I mean, you got to get these basics down. And that's how you get the, I want to do fire. I'm like, you start to get that movement. You start to understand how to build shapes. How to build the negative space. You know what I mean? It comes, but you have to get all this stuff down. Can't say it enough. Okay. Like right now, this is just a series of shading and dagger strokes. And if I didn't want to look kind of cartoon-like or t-shirt-like, I wouldn't have all these lines. But I want this to kind of have that bold from a distance feel. But notice how now this looks further in the background. Yeah, it is wax on and wax off, man. You got to get those fundamentals down. And everyone wants to skip it. They want to get to the fun stuff. And for those joining too, it's like if you want to get a little texture, And these ribbons, you know, tack rags are great for getting texture. Like one of my weak spots, and if this is Mr. J, I'm thinking, is pinstriping. Pinstriping and scroll work striping. I can airbrush lettering and script freehand easy. Did it for years. I have it down. Brush script and pinstriping flames on the first shot without having a cleared surface to kind of wipe my mistakes off. I'm not good at it. I would say I kind of suck at it. Can I do it if I need to and take my time? Yeah, I can get by if it'd take me forever to do it. Why? It's not because I'm not good at it. It's not because, I suck at it. It's because I haven't practiced it enough. So I don't have the time in the muscle memory. If I sat in an hour or two a day and kept doing it, I'd be better at it. I'd be good at it. I know amazing pinstripers that can airbrush okay. They can't do they can't do the freehand work as quickly as I can, like just put a skull out and freehand it, because it's not something they do every other day. If they sat down for maybe a couple hours one afternoon and practiced it more, they'd be fine, because they already have the skill sets. They just need to get loosened up. But it's practice. Oh, another little trick here. So remember how I cut this out? If I want to create kind of a hard shadow, I can take this. I can kind of shift it down a little bit. I'm going to do a loose shadow that follows the contours. This will kind of have a cell-shaded cartoon look. That hard edge I just did, it creates like a cartoon lift. Finishing video 2. Tips on all this project. Yeah. Thanks, Christopher, for popping in. But see how, we've already... This pops, this pop. This is darker. This is darker than this. So this is further back. This is brighter. It looks better than this, but this looks weird, right? Because witches, I don't know. It's kind of flat right now because it's confusing. This is popping, but this is brighter. We need to balance it. Ultimately, this is going to be a little darker than this because it's a little further back. And right here is actually, this part right here, this is the jawbone. So we're going to just make sure we get a little detail in here. And that's part of the teeth. Now this is where, a lot of people, I use a plotter a lot, and a lot of people will start the plotter scene and use the plotter for everything. And then when they get to the freehand stuff, they fuck it up. Well, they mess it up, sorry. Because they spent so much time on the plot, they don't have the freehand skills and understand the shading. It's all going to kind of work in harmony. So this right here is a nose socket. So it's going to be darker on this side because it is a septum, the nose septum here. And here's the socket coming down. And that wrap is coming over. So it can be darker in here. We're going to bring more highlights to all this stuff in a bit. And that comes down and goes to the front teeth. Here, like that. My first 2 months is practicing on a 36 by 48 roll. Yeah. Yep. Roll of paper and you just keep going, man. We did an article in the first were the first AB mags. And it was literally take a board, just put a little adhesive on there, 3M adhesive. Take a roll of paper towels, stick a paper towel down, do dots. Take it off, put another paper towel, do daggers. Do loops, do circles, do this. And then keep repeating, daggers, daggers, loops, all the stuff. Blah, blah, blah. By the time you get through an entire roll of paper towels of drills, your muscle memory's kind of set in. And as long as you keep painting, you'll maintain it. So let's talk about teeth here, everyone's favorite. So you don't end up looking like chiclets. Let's talk about teeth. I'm going to switch camera angles here. I think I can come in a little closer. And then we'll just hit this camera just a little. Yeah, that's good. Let me focus this in. There we go. Okay. So a lot of people try to do is they try to do teeth and they do like that. And then they do another one like this. So that's okay, but they start looking, very cartoony. My first dagger strokes are backwards. Backwards dagger strokes can be actually very useful to go from thin to thick as well. So learn them both. Hey Rob, what's happening? So when I do teeth like this, I tend to start from the middle of a tooth, like between two teeth, and I define like where the gap in the socket is. I come up over the top like this, and I kind of make it darker here, because that's where the tooth goes in. And then I come up from this one, same thing. And then I come up from the middle and do soft dagger strokes up. And that starts to create like a radius look. And then what I do is I come from the bottom and I come up into those. And I kind of connect, but I don't try to connect it like super. It's almost gapped a little bit. Like, and it's just shaded in between. Now this is obviously freehand. If you're not, you can take a little loose shield. You can take pocket graphics. You can take anything. And you can come in here like this, and you can just find a curve that separates and go, okay, we'll just shade here like this. And separate the teeth out like that. And I'll show you, we'll bring in highlights to make them better. Now, if I was doing a realistic skull, it wouldn't have like these harsh lines like that. But for this, it's gonna. So it just has that really bold look. So right here, this is the cheekbone coming around. And this is kind of a cylindrical shape here. So just like here, watch, we're going to put this. I'm going to shade down here a little darker. That starts to give that a radius in. Tell us how it's happening. This comes across, shades down. Same thing here. Now we're going to do these wraps. And now we're going to shade this eye. I'm going to save it for a lot of the candy. But I'm going to darken right underneath it. So it starts to set that eye back a little bit. I'm not going to do too much because I want that eye to glow. So we're going to do this much more. We're going to do much more to this eye towards the end. Everyone hit that like button, like and share. Like I said, we have Thursday night. I don't want to say competition because it really isn't. But we have another channel that's going on at the same exact time doing custom paint, and the more people over here, the better it is for me and us. It keeps this channel rolling, so help support the channel, keep it growing. See, it's already starting to look a little better. Not to worry, Brian. We just do our own thing, keep our own channel rolling. Thank you, Luis. Appreciate that. A lot of us channels, we try to support each other and keep each other growing. Some don't share that outlook. And again, it's starting to look more defined, but again, now it starts to look a little flatter. We need to pop the color. So once I get this all done, now I'll be able to bring those colors and pop them out with highlights and then some shading. Cheers, guys. Raph, and I appreciate that. Ink is really good to practice with. Yeah, if you guys are having trouble, like that's why whenever I practice, I used to always do my drills in like a transparent blue Createx because it doesn't have a heavy pigment load and it kind of works like an ink. But yeah, shoot, you can get, I try to get a water-based ink so you're not smelling it, but alcohol-based inks like, like these Airbrush, really, really great. There's a lot of different brands of inks out there. Just the only thing about alcohol inks, you don't want to be smelling a lot of this stuff without good ventilation or a mask. Even water-based, you want to have ventilation and stuff. But once you start doing alcohol, it's a heavier solvent. So you're atomizing the alcohol and it's getting into your system. So I would definitely just use a water-based ink to start with. You're definitely better off. Again, like some of these lines are soft, but I can come back in and I can, shade a little more. Let's do another cut. Okay. So see where this wrap comes in? I want that wrap to float a little bit. So what I can do is I can take my guy here. And I can cut this out because, again, remember I printed it at the exact same size as my plot. So now I can do this, like this, just basic illustration technique. And I can do this, come right in here. Now I'm using a pretty harsh black-green here. If I wanted to make this pop slower, I could have used a more transparent dark green and then worked my way into the black. So this isn't so harsh. But I want this to be kind of that cartoony Halloween pop, so I don't mind having the lines. And see how I get that nice crisp edge here? All right, I'm going to do these teeth. I'm going to dagger up, dagger up, dagger, 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 dagger. I'm going to take my time. This is all brush control. So see how these teeth, these are back. So these are wrapped around. So they can't be the same tone as these, the same value. These are equal value. They're all the same tone. Every tooth, including these, are the same tone. These are behind. These need to be darker. This needs to be darker, this part of the jaw. It's almost should be black because it's so backlit. So watch as I do make this darker and almost black it out, but I'm blacking out with detail. This jaw pushes forward. Because this is almost in total darkness. Okay, so see how now these two teeth pop forward because that's pushed back. Oh yeah, yep. I hit 36 years this year painting. 36 years. I started in '89 is when I got my first airbrush. Goes by. Now, I don't want to over darken this. I have enough dark, so I can start bringing like a dark green in or when I get a green candy. Let me just get these done quick because I think you've seen enough and I've explained enough. Let's get this. Let me show you. This is how I work in real time. And I'm not talking realistically. I've already painted 50 skulls today, I think. That bike I'm working on now, which is kind of like a chopper-esque thing. It's just covered in skulls. So I got them all mapped out today. Tomorrow I'll do all the detail, all the final details and dark work. But yeah, so if you look here, let's see, I can bring up what I did today. Let's see, because I sent this video. So we did skulls. Actually, I think this might work better. Hold on. Fender, 2 side covers, chin spoiler, gas tank. This is all midpoint. Now I can do all the line work and detail. It's all the shading. It's all silver and white on a black pearl. And then there's a rear fender. So that was today. It's crazy. You work full time, then go home and do the channel. Yeah. Well, the nice thing is it's all here. Everything is on my home property. So basically Thursdays I kind of do a half day on my client work, like on my motorcycle work and custom paint work. And then I start setting up the live feed. Okay, so right here we need some shading. See how, so again, Brian, see the sphere? The core shadow? That basic radius? That's what's missing here. See how this is all one tone? I need to get it darker in here to push that to the background. Even this side can be a little bit darker next to that green and kind of tone in. Where's the hand? Oh, nice. So right here, I'm going to darken that this whole area behind there. Push that shoulder to the background. Starts to bring this forward more. But this is still just meh. It's okay. Oh, I found this. I've used it before. Found this cool. Honey! Bam, bam. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Found this cool texture. See if I can actually. It's a fabric texture. See what it does? That's the pattern. So it works really cool. So I can use that. I'm going to actually, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this. I want to thin this down. And basically use more moss green. Brian, thank you very much for that, sir. Those super chats really add up through the month. And at the end of the month, when YouTube takes care of it, that all really does add up. 10 here, 20 there, 10 here, $5, $1, all the $3. Really does add up. So this is the moss green. I'm just going to darken some of it, but I'm going to take this cloth template. I'm going to add a little. It's probably going to be next to impossible for you to see. But you can just, oh, you know what? Here, watch. So like watch right here. I'm going to take this fabric template. I'm going to follow the direction. And you can see that texture. Or if you use this, I'll do this whole side here. You can see the fabric texture. Let's do a lot of it. Like, just do this. We'll overlap this whole piece. Want to do some like shading. Now when you look, you can see a little, there needs more here. You can see just bits of fabric. No, Drew actually has one. Like, I don't have Drew's. This I got at Hobby Lobby. Yeah, we spray it like on the back of something so you can see what the pattern is. But Drew has a couple of good fabric ones as well. But it's great. So yeah, Drew had a really nice one. I got a couple of his. Tommy Ham's got some great ones as well. I want to make this darker so it looks like it goes in more into the eye socket. Darken that side a little bit. We'll get a little darker in here. So it starts to radius that mouth so it's brighter in the front. Okay. So now we're back to kind of, looks cool. Now we need the pop. Now we need some pop. I'm going to go with my white. Now my white's already been strained. Remember my white right here, I'm going to tap a little green in it. Oops, you know what, let me put it in here. I need, I haven't used this yet. I got to mount it. Finally made a new cup holder for medicine cups. You just pull them out, but I need some adjusting because there we go. Yeah. So I did one. So I just 3D printed this today. I got to loosen these tanks. Guess not. Yeah, that broke. Anyway. So I'm going to take my white, put it in here, because I want to save some of the pure white for the end. I'm going to put just a dot of green in it. Maybe a dot of the yellow in it. That way, it's still kind of white, but it's kind of like a minty white. Because remember, I never really use pure white as then leave it. I never use pure black. I always add a color to it. What I want to do, I want to make sure this is really flowing. That's what these little. I've already strained it with my metal strainers, the one I show you how to make on the channel. Yeah, Hobby Lobby went with like the cheapest Taiwanese, Chinese knockoff electric crap. But that means now Michael's, and a lot of them are going to be carrying Iwata. We have one up here. They're doing 2 in every state to start. So what we use, you can get these at Spray Gunner. You can get them on Amazon. These this like really micro strainer. So when I'm going in for final, I'll strain with one of these and hope it goes through. Nope, paint's too thick to go through. So let me thin the paint a little more. I want to make sure that strainer is not clogged. Yeah, I've been trying to get one. I got to size. I got to mess with it. I might print it out of a different material like EBS. It's a little more. The PLA is a little rigid. I might try a different material so it has a little more flex in it. And I think I might make it just like a half a mil thicker. More so it pops out a little softer. Yeah. Yeah, but people aren't at Hobby Lobby to buy high-end stuff. They're there to buy cheap stuff. So, kind of what they get. I'm not surprised. The problem is they're all competing with Amazon, and they're competing with secondary market knockoff stuff, which is like half the money. So people are like, oh, why am I going to buy that $150 airbrush at Hobby Lobby when I can buy a one at Amazon. I think this strainer is jammed up. Do I have any more? Oh, I think I have a brandy new one. Gary is the final bidder. Yeah, I've locked it in. So this is going home with Gary. There we go. There we go. This one's... So now we've done a nice, good strain. There we go. I think Hobby still has... Yeah, no, they still have Createx for now. I don't know if they're getting rid of it. But they still have some Createx. Okay, so now this should be flowing really nice. So now I can come in and start brightening areas up that I want. This is where light source comes in. So watch, let's get the teeth done. Let's get these teeth to pop. I'm going to put the core highlight, not at the very edge, kind of in that center of the tooth. Like that, and make those brighter. So watch this tooth. See how this tooth just looks one-dimensional flat? Yeah, Raffin, they're just getting crap airbrushes. They're just like the cheap battery ones and really crappy. I was always surprised that Hobby Lobby even carried Iwata, but Iwata had a good relationship with them. It's funny, you used to be able to get them at Michael's, and then they started carrying Hobby Lobby. Michael's stopped. They carried Badger, and they stopped Badger. And now they're back. Now Michael's is going back to carry Iwata. The nice thing about what Michael's is doing is they're carrying like a couple different airbrushes. They're carrying the Revolution, the Eclipse. I forget what else. But they're also carrying needles and nozzles too. Which that's the key. You can buy a cheap airbrush, or you can buy a good airbrush. But the problem with the cheap ones, you are gonna, especially when you first start, you are gonna bend a needle or crack a fluid nozzle. You're going to, and all those cheap, Chinese, Taiwanese knockoffs. You can't get parts for them, so you're stuck. As soon as you get one, you might as well just throw it out. Yeah, a lot of the hobby shops, Badger's always been, in the past years older, Badger's always been very big in the model industry. Badger has a really good focus on that market. They've really supported it for a long time. And they do a lot of the hobby shows. That is changing. But they've always done a really good job in that space. But Iwata's been also really focusing on that market. Iwata was really focused on the automotive fine arts for a long time. A little less on the hobby side. There were more automotive illustrators, fine artists was really what they catered to, and less on the kind of hobby and model area. But that's been changing over the years. Like, I'm stoked, actually, the game store that I get all my Warhammer stuff from, I think they're going to start to carry Iwata soon, which would be great. Yeah, I think the two best U.S. stores you can get from is Coast and Spray Gunner. There's a couple other smaller ones. But depending where you're at, those are your two best options. So let's highlight this stuff here. So notice I'm bringing this stuff up pretty bright now, because I'm setting it up to add some candies to it. Getting this teeth a little brighter. Just really bringing that forward. I'm focusing on all the center brighter areas. See how I'm bringing those up? I'm focusing this whole middle section. And that's making the whole forehead look brighter. I'm going to get right here, get this one. Get here. And then we'll start doing some lighting effects and making this thing pop. So watch the chin. Notice how the chin here, this is all back to like one dimension. Now watch, I'll pop this chin out by getting this to be really bright. And if I want... Oops, did I rip it? God damn it. Ah, chore it. Yeah. I did cut it again, but... Aha, there we go. No, in Canada, maple is amazing. Don is awesome. I know what you meant. I know you mean Donald. But watch, I'm going to get this chin to pop out more. Like a Bruce Campbell chin. By making that brighter, now it's going to pop off the neck more. Okay, see how now that lifts? Honey, thank you. Have a great night. Appreciate it. Go get them. Let's get these teeth brightened up. The little sockets. I'm going to do a little bit down here. Not much. But see, now I'm really starting to get that pop that I want. Let's do a little edge light here. Like it's catching some secondary from this backlight. You see that starts to get a little backlighting effect. See that there? Now you have the bright, back to the shadow. Now we get bright. I'll do the same thing over here. Actually, what I can do, I'll use this. So watch, I'm going to come across here like this. We can get that little edge. And now we're going to start doing some texture in here. We'll make these eyes pop, really pop. We'll get them bright. And back to this green. This is still dark. I got a little too dark there. I want to get some of this bright yellow in the eyes. I just spilled my white. Okay. Okay, I want to get some yellow in here and maybe use one of Tommy Ham's little stencils. Maybe a little texture in that eye. Make that pop. I'm going to be using green. It's like an emerald green. We can get a little more pop on this background. We'll get a, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make that really bright back here. That pops him off the surface some more. Thank you, sir. All right, let's take, we have some emerald green candy mixed up here. And I want to really get, I want to get that back in the emerald green and not too much on him. So you'll see the color change. Back here starts to look really cool. Where's the hand? Did I save the hand? Nope. Yeah, someone else thought that. And I've got Mumra, Iron Maiden, whatever anyone's got an idea on. Which, Mumra and Iron Maiden, everything else is still based off the original Mummy. Alright, so I'm trying to get the back a little darker. And then we'll come in and we'll start hitting all the darker areas with this same candy green. And kind of pushing that back. See what I mean? Pushing that back. That's letting, wherever those dark shadows are, I'm going to kind of bridge those out with the darker green. Let the white area stay whiter. But see this dark area, I'm going to kind of come in, green, green. The jaw will have a little bit more green to it. It really starts to have a cool pop. Then we'll get these eyes. Really hit the edge of these eyes with the green and underneath. Now we're going to get a little bit of highlight here. Come on. I'm not getting the direct paint I want. Have you tried? Never heard of Hugo Mac colors. Thanks, Vic. Oh, Darren, yeah, I saw that. Getting these eyes just to pop a little more. And I'm gonna try this, and hopefully I like it. I'm gonna add a little bit of purple casting to some of that side light. Like it's got like a key light that's coming in from the side front. Basically where the pinstripe is. Does your Takumi have a custom trigger and spring? I don't know. No. I don't. The trigger springs don't really do anything for me. Because realistically, you don't need the spring to come up, and yeah, it's a negligible difference. No, this is the factory flat trigger, the square trigger. The only thing I did different, I put a double cutaway handle on my Takumi clips. And I don't like the low ride trigger much for the way I paint. I think they're good if you only... The low ride triggers work good if you only work in the first 40% of the trigger pull. Once you go past the midpoint, the fulcrum point, that trigger kind of messes up for me. It kind of... The geometry's off. Kind of binds on me. So I'm not really a big fan. Alright, we're going to do a little... like fantasy lighting here and see if it works. We're going to do a little back here. Just a little bit of purple casting. Ah, yeah, I like that. A little bit of purple casting in some areas. So you gotta be careful because the purple over the green, you get what? What happens if you put purple over green? People. If you put purple over green, you get brown. Because you're starting to mix all three primaries together. So watch, I'm going to just whiten this up a little bit. Yeah, just the purple just adds a little something. Yeah, it just gives us something. Let's see. It could be exactly. It could be a tragic brown. You get poo. I was gonna say weird black, but you get like a brownish poo color. No, like I use different triggers. So Iwata's always had the round trigger height, and then they came out with kind of a round with a slant to it. And those were cool. And then they came out with the square triggers. Square triggers are my favorite. And then this guy here, this is the Drew Blair. This is the low ride trigger. It works great if you're only in the front. If you're only in the front half of the trigger pull. For me, And the springs, I think the springs are, honestly, I think the springs are more of a placebo than anything else. And we are going to do a nice purple. Nice purple stripe here. This is my new favorite way to do pinstriping, is these Posca pins. Because I like to get the flat side and then do kind of rough on the inside. I think it looks cool. It's kind of my new favorite signature thing I like to do. I want the stripe to go behind that. So I have the pinstripe go over that knuckle. It's going to go under this one here. And under this one here. And I think we'll sign in purple. Yeah, it happened earlier today. I remember seeing Ricky Rocket was talking about it earlier. He had heard he went in the hospital with some condition. I don't know the exact cause. And then, hey, what's happening, Ryan? Welcome. I have this green. What type of paint and reduction? So I'm using, this is all Wicked colors, mostly Wicked Opaques. I got a little bit of Candy 2.0. For the most part, I do a 5 to 10% reduction. Yeah, I don't think the soft trigger is going to help you cramps much. The spring tension is so minusculely different. You can maybe squeeze for the trigger pull back, you can soften that up. But the trigger down, I don't think that really does much. I still like, and I think Gary does too. Would you suggest for those like me to try different images? Yeah, you could try different images like this, but do your practice stuff every day first. Do some shading, do some sphere, and then paint an image you like. You know, keep it simple. The nice thing about images like this is this one's a little bit more complex than some of the other ones. But yeah, you know, paint what you like, but just there's a lot to this in steps. So if you're going to do this, don't try to rush it. You're not going to paint this in real time with me. Think about this. I've been doing this a long time, and this has taken me 5 hours probably. There's a lot of talking. So if you're going to practice this, this is going to be like probably you got to take your time and spread this out over like a week of painting and take your time. Don't expect to do this in 5 hours. So I'm going to take my Posca because I love the way this looks on these paintings. I'm going to get a little kind of sketchy off to the side. Kind of highlight it. So this is something I started doing. I did this originally. I think the first one I did this one was the Predator painting. And I just loved the contrast of the soft airbrush in this kind of ink work kind of on the side. I just thought it looked cool, so it's basically like an edge highlight. You know, it's just kind of a fun way to bring in some very sharp line, or like using brush paint. Like I always love Rod Fuchs's work. He would put so much brush work in it. And it just looks great. So this kind of gives it that feel for me. Yeah, so the Wicked's great. So I love illustration as well. The illustration set's amazing. For hard surfaces, remember the illustration colors, you have to add a 40-50 to it to get it to bite really good to metal. Or you could have some issues with it. Because it's designed for illustration. I use it a lot on motorcycles. Just make sure you add the 40-50 to it. I love the illustration colors. Nice reduction. Remember, mix your paint into mixing cups like this and let them settle. Get them mixed really good before you pour into the airbrush. Don't mix into the brush itself. If you do mix in the brush, pour reducer in first and then put the paint. And well, I always recommend straining all my paints. So that's why I always mix them like this. And then I usually mix them into another one. Yeah, that's fun looking. That's cool. All right, let me take this border off. Yeah, that purple pops. Back this up just a hair. So I clear mostly everything with House of Color. I love House of Color UC21 and the USC01. Those are my favorite clears. There's some other good products on the market as well. Just to get a good quality clear that you like. Drop shadow. Yeah, that hand looks, now it's like it's popping out, which is good. I'm just going to make sure I drop shadow right here. So that stripe's going under. Right here, same thing. See a little bit of the purple stripe peeking through there. This is the moss green still, that dark moss green. I want to hit these eyes. I want to get them dark right in the sides. So see that difference? This is that shading of the sphere. So watch this eye. Let's make it look more rounded. Right here, I'll come down. And what we'll do is I'm going to give it a little hard reflection. Just like that. Basically, that shadow line is the actual wraps coming over. And now it's just balancing things, like looking at it and seeing what I want to push and pull. Like, I'll put a little bit more shading under here. And make that finger pop off more. I'll separate this one out. And let those fingers pop off a little more. It's just balancing. The last 15-20 minutes of a piece, like when you think you're done, like step back, look at it, come back in 5, 10, 15 minutes and really just kind of push and pull. Yeah, that's looking pretty cool, I think. What do you guys think? You like? I think we'll call this one done at this point. Let's see. My teleprompter screen died. So I was missing some chats here. Let's see what we got here. I keep doing. Yeah, exactly. You step back and look at it, see what needs, squint your eyes, see what needs to come forward and what needs to be pushed back. Because if you squint your eyes, it just looks like a blob. You don't have the right contrast level. Probably more love it. Sweet. Hey guys, I think we're pretty good. I think it's time to clean out these airbrushes and go from there. Call it a night. I think it's fun. I think it was a fun piece. I dig it. I might mess around with it a little bit more after the fact, but I think that was a pretty fun piece. It's a fun one to practice if you're learning. So go to the McKay Fine Art, check out the downloads. And, yeah. I think we're going to call it a night a little early. It is 9:40. Thanks, Christopher. Appreciate that. And, yeah, this was a nice 3-parter. Should have been a 2-parter. But, I really dig the way it came out. It's a fun piece. I don't think I've ever painted a mummy. I've done zombies and stuff. I did the whole Walking Dead bike. If you look on my my website, go to the theme bikes, look at the Walking Dead bike, and that's got some fun zombies. I want to do a Walking Dead piece again. I haven't done one in years. That could be fun. I know they were just filming here, just outside of Boston recently. So, not for Walking Dead, for the Negan one. I forget what they call that one. But, yeah. Brian, take your time with it. You know, don't try to rush it. It's a challenging piece, especially all this stuff. You know, you start getting into here. It takes quite a bit. So just take your time. Yes, actually, Gary's right. That was your suggestion. Yeah. And it is yours. This will accompany nice with the other theme pieces you got coming. You know what? It's bugging me. You know what's bugging me? This slide needs to be darker still. It needs to get pushed back more. Yeah, see, that makes this brighter. Beauty. There we go. All right, guys. That is it for this Thursday night. I hope everyone has an awesome weekend. And I will see you guys next week, next Thursday, 8 p.m. Yeah, that'll be... What's next Thursday's date? I forget. So I think I got 2 more before SEMA. Yeah. I hope I got 2 more weeks before SEMA because I got a whole painting to start and finish. Yeah, so everyone have an awesome night. I will talk to you all very, very soon. Peace. See you later. Bye.